This is Pam. She's our guest question answerer on Double Barrel today.
Thank you, Angelo.
Thanks for coming. So happy to see you.
Good to see
you. Okay. So what we're going to do is have people raise hands. And the way you do that is you go down to the reactions button, and there's a little up arrow, I think, and it should have a thing that says raise hand. And once you raise your hand, I will see it on my participant list, and then we will take turns answering, or tag team, answering your questions. So let's roll. The suspense is killing me. Say hi.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Pam.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Okay, first question. I think it's Johan here. I'm going to say lower hand, and you have the floor.
Wow, that was quick. So thank you for doing this, Josh. Yeah, I was actually on a couple of months ago, and you were here. And Pam, I saw your interview. It was great.
Well, thank you.
So trying to get a really quick backstory here. The state here is that, like, the person Johan is very, very thin. It doesn't have much opinions about anything, even when it comes to life and death and stuff. But it's really positive. It's like yeah, it's hard to describe, really. But I have a very specific question. I had a couple of months ago a quite weird experience, which was, well, when I started researching it, it referred to some kind of, like, it was referred to in Buddhist terms like cessation or something like that. I had a really, really profound experience of not existing, like total blackness. And it was also very positive. I don't know if anything of this, what I'm saying, sounds positive, but anyway. But that kind of activated my search again, or I'm not searching really, but it made me start investigating again. And I started meditating, and I realized that there were a bunch of things that were kind of, yeah, it opened up, like, so for example, like PT and jhanas and stuff, like I realized how strong my like energy body experiences, my body experiences, perceptions, all that kind of things. So yeah, I'm not coherent in any way here, but anyway, my question is about meditation, really, because I know that I haven't really had that shift that some people talk about, that where the self is actually just dissolving and is no longer there. Although it's very, very thin. I'm doing savasana. I've been kind of meditating like a couple of hours a day. It's extremely pleasurable or extremely interesting. It's almost like going on a like getting like watching a film, or it's really unpersonal, not personal. It's not me. It's not my thoughts. It's just like either very strong bodily experiences or like almost like I see scenes from other people's lives, or yeah, it's really a weird experience. So my question is how to use this, because I mean, if you look at like more like a Buddhist tradition, there's all this effort and all this thinking about how to train your mind into doing things. And I am not there. That doesn't resonate with me at all. It's like Ramana Maharshi is much more closer to what seems logical to me. And when I do meditation or savasana, it's more about like doing nothing, letting the experience happen. It's kind of my some part of my like subconscious or whatever is navigating some space of unexplored content. So that is the question: is there, does it make any sense, and is there a way to look at meditation as a way, like, yeah, just general comments about what I've said, really. Sorry if it doesn't make any sense.
You're fine. I'm gonna give a quick answer, and then I'll open it up to whoever wants to say anything. Everything you say makes total sense. You're just fine. You're fine. The only thing I'll offer is, if you're curious about it, look into the belief that effort and effortlessness are two different things. Like, you have a choice.
Yeah.
And that's when you see that's one thought's gone, you're done. It's kind of over for you. Don't worry about big shifts, all that stuff. These are thoughts. Don't worry about it.
Okay. Yeah. No, I'm totally aware of the stupid, like the duality in all these concepts is really not something that I get stuck on.
You're good. Yeah. Just what can happen is, after all of that efforting for your life and struggling and striving, and then doing it spiritually and all that, there can just still be a little bit of that fire that wants to like do something or orient some way or whatever. Just notice that's just a physical sensation now. That's all it is. And it will subside, but patience is good. You know, you really don't need anything. You don't need me to tell you what to do. Josh, Alma, anyone else?
Pam.
I would say that one thing that caught my ear and I really resonated with that was, you said here a while back you had an experience and yada yada yada. And one of the things I think I did this year that has, what I have learned is not to grasp at a past experience because you want to feel that again. That is the things like, oh, I want to feel like I felt in that meditation, or I want to feel like I felt 2 days ago. And that's one of the things I would say is I think that what you described is perfect, and don't worry about grasping at how you felt yesterday or a couple of weeks ago.
Oh. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. And that can take very gross forms, where you're like really trying to relive an awakening and feeling grief about it or whatever, struggling like you're going to recreate it. But it can also take very subtle forms, where it's a flash of memory. The mind just says, oh, a cessation event. What was that about? You know, or like, these are just thoughts about your life, thoughts about your past, thoughts about time, thoughts about literally anything. They're just thoughts.
Actually, that part was just before I totally like let go of everything and just like assume that whatever is happening is ongoing, and I don't have to care about it that way. What that made me do was, it was so like different, and it's not grasping, it's not that, it was just a trigger to start investigating. And after that, when I started like doing savasana, it has been so, I mean, like this like bodily sensations, and it has been so pleasurable before, but I haven't really understood like that some people actually talk about this. So when I learned, like the triggers made me start investigating. Okay, people are actually talking about this. Okay, it's a thing, jhana first, whatever. And so it's not that is important. It's just that opened up my investigation, or like my deepening in like letting myself like relax into what is actually happening. So and like there is no grasping, because I don't even know how to grasp anymore. I don't have any opinion about almost anything. So it's really, and that is my way of expressing it. But it was more like opening just the deepening of something that I wasn't aware of. And I know like people who have been very, very deep into Buddhist, like different trainings and so on. And I know that you have done that a lot, but like then you're doing that so much like an effort. There's so much like a conscious thing, and you're thinking about this like five or something else and so on. I'm not there and not interested really. But I realized that meditation is really, yeah, it's like it's an explosion. It's like So my question was more about, and I do trust the process. Trust the process. Even that is stupid, because whatever happens. But it's more like, well, yeah, of course, saying this out loud makes me like, is it like kind of confirmation about something, or but it's also, well, in one way I can just continue doing what I am already doing, and that is 100% fine, because that is what will happen regardless of.
Exactly. You can't choose this or that.
No.
That's over, man. That's a graveyard. Here's Alma.
I just want to share that personally, I never was very interested in meditation, and I did minimal amounts of meditation on my own path, and it was fine. And I didn't strive in the way that you're describing. I didn't put concerted effort towards a practice that was very rigid or anything like that. And the times that I do meditate, I actually experience some of what you were describing. Like there's the mind going into all these different realms, and it's very unstructured and unpredictable, and that's totally fine. That's how consciousness moves. It's dynamic in that way, and there's no need to manage that process. So follow your own path, your own intuition.
Yeah. There is no problem. Sounds pretty effortless, right? I mean, there is nothing else.
Yeah.
This is it. Just be with this as it is. There's no problem until there is a problem, and that doesn't mean there's ever going to be a problem. You're not missing out on anything.
If I'm missing a problem, I can create one later.
That's the nature of the grasping mind, the one that's anticipating something better in the future. There is nothing better. It's just this. And it's okay to also express. This is great. This kind of freedom of expression, this opening in this way. It sounds like you started self-pointing pretty accurately. So at least there's a venue for that.
It is a sanity check, because I'm whatever happens here is obvious. I mean, it is happening.
Okay.
I can say it out loud, and if people don't laugh or look weird at me, I feel okay.
No. The laughter is just a recognition in some way. Like we all get the cosmic joke with you. We're the fabric of your shirt with you.
That's most of what I was noticing is your shirt.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for your comments.
Thank you.
Yeah, nice to see you. Okay, let's go to Sarah. Sarah.
I think there's two Sarahs. Should I just go, or should I just ask my question?
Wow, you're the first one. Yep. Hit it.
Cool. Awesome. So I guess the question that I've been sitting with this week and kind of just searching for answers is how to not take all this so seriously when it feels like the most important thing in the world. And I have 4 kids, and it still feels like the most important thing in the world. And I've emailed with people, and Josh, I know you talk about play a whole lot. And I kind of keep coming back to that. But when it feels so intense, and this week has felt so intense, how do I not take it so seriously?
Pam, you want to start?
Wow. Okay.
If you feel inclined.
No, I was going to say the only thing I can relate to that is when I first got the inkling that there was something I wanted to investigate, and I just started picking up material and reading it, and I had no clue what it was. So I'm not saying don't take it seriously, but have a playfulness about it. Because it does just come naturally. It's not anything that the more intense you study or the more intense you do this or that, it's going to make that just makes it harder. So I would say just love it and be fascinated with it, but have a playfulness about it, and it will come on its own.
Perfect. I was just going to say, in addition to that, we have filters in the mind that automatically apply interpretations to things. So when we hear about presence, it sounds good. It sounds peaceful, pleasant, enjoyable, open, and it is. But it's also, at times, intense, gritty, raw, intense emotion, and sort of external intensity with the life we're living. Those are all qualities of presence. They're all qualities of presence. And remind yourself. If you remind yourself of that, you have an opportunity to sort of, I don't know, when things are gritty and intense and like something in you is going, no, no, no. If you just remind yourself, this is a quality of presence. It allows you to maybe lean in a little bit, or maybe just like refocus your senses somewhat, and all of a sudden, just a little bit more, I don't know, peace comes in, or a little bit more interest or willingness to lean into experience will kind of come forward. I think just having that heart-based knowing that really everything you experience, even when the mind is really trying to divide reality up into enjoyable and not enjoyable, spiritual and not spiritual, that's actually not true at all. That is an after interpretation. It's just not true. The qualities of freedom and peace and immersion, they're always here. They're always here. It's just that, again, the mind filters them sometimes a little more than others. And just know that in your heart. And just as you move through life, that will start to change your quality of experience, I would say.
Sure. Yes. So curiosity is a sensational experience primarily. Curiosity will be driven sensationally. And if there's any aspect of interpretation of these experiences that is oriented around an assumption where there isn't curiosity taking place in a sensational way, then that's going to make it seem rather serious. You will find that the inertia of curiosity will drive all of this in such a beautiful and natural way, but you do have to feel the stuff that you don't want to feel at first. It's okay. You were made for this. You can do this. Just feel your way through these difficult places until curiosity basically takes you to the playful place. And it's there. It's underneath the surface. You might not be able to see it clearly in the moment, but you do have contact with this. That you're not removed from this. You're not doomed. You're not stuck. So these hard weeks are good weeks because they're actually revealing something for you that you can really start to pay attention to. You're getting in contact with that no. And that no, underneath that no, is a big hell of a yes.
I really like that, Josh. The curiosity will take you. Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Yeah.
And let it be the most important thing. Why not?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The most important thing when it comes to what we're talking about, it's not the kind of thing where you have to pick and choose other things in life. It's just not like that. The mind might make it seem like that, but you're not doing it to the exclusion of anything else. You're doing it to the inclusion of everything else.
And sorry. Yeah, and I understand there can be some practical constraints, especially with kids. It's really, really important that you can find a way to allow yourself some space. Space is where a lot of this will take place. So if you can find that venue, even if it means getting a babysitter so that you can sit at home and sit with it for a while. That can help a lot, because the distracted mind will just continue to apply more difficulty over the curiosity. That's basically what it's really good at. So just getting a little bit more practical in that sense.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm having to move around, so there's not kiddo background noise right now. So, but that all makes sense, and I appreciate it. And curiosity was something that kind of kept coming up for me when I was sitting out with this week. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Okay, we are down to Jeff.
Hey guys,
Hey, man, what's up?
good to see y'all. So
to see
is this quadruple barrel non-duality, or
It
is
is.
this like a double?
It's like a
barrel?
Gatling gun of non-duality coming straight at you.
Nice. So this is almost more of a progress report, I think, maybe than a question. But so when I started down this non-dual path, I first took that little baby step of, instead of identifying with thought, I identified as the observer. But it was still dual. There's still a subject, just the subject's identity shifted. And then when I started, hearing that, well, even the observer is an illusion, of course, I would look for the observer in actual experience and would never be able to find it. And but there was still, in the practice, there was still some part of me that was still sort of shifting the subject. So the subject went from thought to observer of thought, and now I was trying to shift it to unbound consciousness or something, but there was still a subject trying to do that. And then after last month's double barrel, when you had Pernilla on, I started looking into some of her stuff and her Fetter work. And I ran into some of the stuff she's doing with Liberation Unleashed, and I started looking at a lot of their pointers and read the Gateless Gatecrashers book, and they point very directly to, there is no I. And so it's a subtle shift in the way I've started to practice, but now it's less, I am unbound consciousness to I'm not even here. There's only unbound consciousness. There's no me. And in the process of that shift, I mean, I still feel separate, still feel like a separate self, even though every time I look for that self, I can't find it. I've started to notice very subtle, I started looking into the second Fetter stuff, and I started to notice little subtle elements of doubt, both in my own capability, but also in the whole concept of I don't exist. So even though I never find it, it's like, oh, I don't exist, but there's kind of this like little but at the end of it, and I don't even know what the but is, but there's this subtle sense that's bound in both thought and in sensation that, maybe that's not right. And then I also started noticing just like subtle elements of fear, which I never thought was there before. I always thought, the Jeff that I identify as has suffered so much. I'm like, you can have him. I mean, get rid of him already, but I've talked to you, Angela, and Josh actually one-on-one about this, that, my mind never shuts up, and it's constantly creating and working through scenarios. And there's this, it's almost like this constant companion of mine in a way. And the scenarios are like interesting. And so they grab me and I get involved in them. So there's some like subtle sense of resistance that almost doesn't want to give that up, and even like when I notice that I'm thinking through another scenario and I'm like, oh, it's just more thoughts coming up, there's a little piece that's like, oh, but that's so interesting. I just want to follow that. So I'm sort of stuck in this weird place where, something just doesn't want to quite let go. And the thinking mind is still constantly churning out thoughts. So yeah, I mean, even in experience, when I really look for it, I never find a self. There's just kind of this paradoxical emptiness, infinity thing. But in my day-to-day life, it's definitely still there.
All right. Who's got something?
I got something. All right. So this is really good. Jeff, see if you can inquire around what these thoughts, what these particular things that seem to be like interesting breadcrumbs, what they are pulling you away from in terms of something that's more present. Here's one thing that I can say. Thoughts can be rather addictive, and the more we feed the mind with concepts and things that we're seeking, the more likely you'll be kind of locked into that particular state of mind. The best thing I could possibly give you is stillness. The next time you have a compulsive desire to consume some form of knowledge or to follow a conceptual thread, see what happens when you don't do so. What comes up in the body? Does it feel really uncomfortable when you don't go after it? Does it feel like you might be missing something? That's your message. It's going to be really clear for you that stillness away from feeding that aspect of the mind is going to start to reveal something that might feel really uncomfortable, but that's where the magic's going to be for you.
That makes a lot of sense. I think part of the fear is a combination of, what happens if I don't follow that thread? That
exactly.
But also there's a little bit of a fear there as
wait, before you go too deep though.
Yeah.
Say that again.
Fear as to what happens if I don't follow that thread. FOMO, essentially. But
also that is tapping into the primary fear that we really want to point to, which is the unknown. If you can sit with the unknown, then you're not sitting in this conceptual projection of what's going to happen. You're sitting in a place where you don't know. And if the answer is, I don't know, there's a hell of a lot of freedom in that. So you're starting to get a taste of something that will actually carry you quite a ways.
Yeah. I was actually about to mention that the other half of the fear is if I don't follow those interesting threads in the mind, what's there?
I mean,
maybe me sitting in reality is scary.
You're going to be okay. Part of what this seems to be, and I'm just pulling this out in the moment, is in a way you're proving to the identity that you're going to be just fine anyway. Something starts to happen there. Yeah. It's a strange paradox of where the identity also seems to simultaneously let go. It's almost like thoughts are just emptiness, returning into emptiness. And if we just let them cast themselves right back into emptiness, what remains? That's the discovery here.
Cool. Yeah.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I feel like part of the process too is acclimating to the conscious space and being willing to rest there long enough to where you could see it through those moments of polarization or fixation on a specific thought and feel the trigger of that, let it peak and subside, and then remaining in that conscious space. Because it's easy. I think part of what I'm sensing here too is some resistance to thought itself. Like a belief that thoughts are uncomfortable, which part of that is true. Like it is uncomfortable to be hooked into a thought. But if you ride out the wave long enough, it returns back to a resting place. And once things get calm enough, you can inquire so as to see what's beyond that. Like where is identity if it's not in consciousness? If you have more to say to that.
Cool.
Pam, you have anything to add? Okay. All right. We are to Sarah Ting. Sarah, number 2.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Right, this is my first double barrel.
Welcome.
Yeah, I got like twice the double barrel, so it's a good one. So I just felt called to share. I don't know if I have a question, but I've been for the last few weeks, I shared this in your Q&A, Angelo. I've been had this shift where I was sitting in this like nothingness. And I was just like feeling so it was just like nothing was happening. Nothing was there. And then there's been like this shift the last few weeks where then this energy, just this really intense massive energy is just like here. And it's like the stillness of that nothingness is now like it's this like palpable it's just this presence and but it's also really intense. So I've had to just like find ways to find relief almost, because like all day, every day for like the last 3 weeks, like when I wake up, it's like, bam, it's like, it's like here, and it's like till I go to sleep. And I don't know, maybe it's while I'm sleeping that I'm not tracking it, I guess. But it's so like physical in a sense, like where it really feels like my whole nervous system is like taking this like energy in, and it feels like there's nothing to do, and also I'm still like I guess I'm kind of just feeling called to share, just not knowing if there's anything, like maybe something to connect on or
Yeah. So whatever that shift was, that was a big one. That was a big, big shift. And what happens is so much of the identity structure gets scraped away, and it may last like a while and kind of reconstitute a little bit, or it's hard to know. But when that happens, we suddenly realize how much of what we thought was going on isn't really going on. But what is going on is a lot of energetics, and you have direct access to that energetic experience, and that is a physical experience. The body can interpret it in a lot of different ways. It can feel it as pain. It can feel it as kundalini movements. Just feels like you're being rewired, like electricity moving through. It can be very intensely emotional, but it doesn't always have to be. So everything you're going through is really par for the course for having quite a pretty deep shift in what I would just say is your identity and consciousness. So we can give you some pointers or just some reflections, and that's fine. But this process for you is very spontaneous, and it's very good that it's spontaneous, and you have a very clear attunement to spontaneity and to surrender. You for whatever reason, karmically, perhaps you totally understand what surrender is, and that's what this is. And yeah, it makes me happy to see your face.
Yeah.
It radiates right from you. Yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. You're giving yourself to the biggest, most powerful, most subtle, most beautiful, most devastating force that actually is all of this. And that's a wonderful thing. It's going to be a lot of stuff, a lot of shifts and different things and all that, and energetics and all that. It's fine. It's all good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's really helpful though too to hear.
Yeah.
I've felt energetic shifts before, but this is not. It's not energetic. It's like a mass. It's like a
identity. That's why I talk about identity so often. We don't realize what identity actually is, and how binding and how enclosing and how filtering it is until it's not there.
Yeah. Another,
Right.
yeah, no, I've been feeling one of the funny side effects is like just forgetting things
Hmm.
and not like things are just gone and like
Yeah.
and having to just there's so many little other things that have changed. But it feels like every small thing about the day kind of
Yeah.
sense. So it feels like not dramatic at all in a sense.
Yeah. Just keep noticing. Keep noticing this clarity, this depth, this profundity in every single thing, like your feet touching the floor, when your hand touches the doorknob, when you take a breath, when you smile, when you fall asleep, when you wake up. The depth is literally infinite to these experiences now. And, it's just beautiful. Like, I don't really have anything to say. I just feel love.
Yeah, I feel that too.
There's innocence just written all over your face, and it's so lovely.
Very sweet.
Softness, allow it to be so. Let it be. Blossom. Open. If it feels like it's going to overtake, just let it. You're going to be just fine. The things that you're forgetting, they're inconsequential. It doesn't last like that. But for now, let it be what it is. That's it.
And you'll learn some practical strategies, making lists, setting alarms. That comes and goes for me still. Actually, really depends. If I'm not busy, like if I have a lot of days to just sit in presence or just sit and I don't really have to do it, then it's very easy for me to completely and absolutely lose track of time or what the hell I'm doing or who I am or what fucking universe I'm in. It's just gone. So when I'm busy, actually, I stay on time more. But, I've definitely had times where I had to set alarms for simple things through the day, and you'll have practical adjustments. But like Josh said, that's truly inconsequential and compared to what's staring us in the face right now.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
I just really appreciate all of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a massive act of compassion, is what this is. That's what you're going through. That's what you're offering, whether you choose to or not. It's just what's happening. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you. Pam, do you have anything?
No, I just agree with you, Angelo. My calendar has become my best friend, and setting reminders has become my best friend because I feel so free from all of that. So yeah, it's wonderful.
Exactly.
Don't worry about it.
So with you, Pam. So with you.
Yeah. Glad we have those calendars. Yeah.
Sarah, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, likewise.
Stay in touch.
Yeah.
You can email me. Maybe we'll talk like on my channel or something if you want later on.
With that. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
All right. Let's talk to Ashley. How you doing, Ashley?
Good. I actually just had my question answered. So yeah, it was about, is it normal to have to set constant reminders with this whole process? Because to kind of, I guess, parallel off of what Sarah was saying, I've been going through a lot of energetic shifts. I kind of mentioned that with the Q&A. I mentioned that, and it's been really hard to kind of get used to that energy flow in the body. And then just lately it's been, I forgot to do that. I should set a reminder for that because otherwise I know I'm going to forget. So yeah, it was just a question that I had, whether it was common, because it kind of feels like it's like I'm young. Why am I forgetting to do this type of thing?
Yeah. Some people can be really distressed by this if they're really attached to their intelligence and their problem solving and their constant grip on time and space and all that. It can be kind of unsettling. Like they're afraid to have early dementia and things like that. And you don't. It's normal. It's totally normal. Reality just like disappears, right? And then it comes back. It's like flashes of like nothingness, somethingness, time gone. And so it's kind of like learning new strategies. Pam, what other kind of things have you noticed around this?
Well, in the energy changes, like you said, Angelo, if I'm really, really busy and I've got a lot of things going on, then you do get into that mode. But the cool thing is you stay with the presence in the background. And I mean, you do get things done a little more efficiently, but I just make it a point to set reminders and calendar events and everything for everything, because if I'm just really present, it could fly on by, Whoopsie, I didn't do that, And I even had to do that because I'm a pretty meticulous housekeeper, and I actually started setting calendar events. Don't forget to clean out this or that, because it's just, those things just aren't what they used to be. And but it's not a problem. I mean, we have that technology and it's helpful, and it's not a problem. And your energy shifts will change, sometimes. And that's one thing I had to think about too, is lots of times I had tons of energy where I was up at midnight, just tons of energy just flowing through the body, and it'd be like, I heard somebody saying, I can't remember, well, so what? It may be Angelo. What's the story? So you didn't sleep. So what? So you're up at midnight. So you've got things to do. So what? And that'll change. And then there'll be times like, wow, I never took naps in my life. And now it's like 3 o'clock in the afternoon and I just fall asleep, So there'll be lots of different shifts, and they're nothing to worry about.
Okay, that's really helpful.
I just want to say that there's an advantage to this, like just looking at it objectively, that being outside of the paradigm of time, if you have some strategies in place, of course, to accomplish what you need to get done, you're not, if you're mentally not wired into that paradigm, you're not worn down by the illusion of time. It doesn't weigh you down in the way that maybe previously it might have, because having the ongoing narrative reminding yourself of what you have to do in moments where you don't really have to think about that takes a toll energetically as well, and it has a cost. So if you subtract that, you actually have quite a bit more energy at your disposal, and it gets channeled spontaneously. And that doesn't mean not to take practical measures to try to ensure that you meet the responsibilities that you have, and you are on time to things. But I will say that there is maybe a part of this that doesn't get talked about, that like over time it stabilizes, and it's nice sometimes, even when there are busy periods, to go through something that's quite demanding, and then at the end of that period of being busy, just feeling completely free, like not feeling the wariness of, because you don't have that narrative of I've just done all these things, or I've just been up, running from here to there. Like, you're not regurgitating that, and so there's like a more frequent reset, like the reset button's just always there, and that has a lot of benefits to it too.
The reset button's an interesting thing, because as she was talking, I kind of love this subject because it's really the time thing. It's so fascinating because, sometimes I get these flashes of memory of like how I used to experience reality. And it's like, I think it used to be like, if I'm doing something, it's in a context, and that context has to do with a part of my life. And there was a belief that that's going to continue into the future. But that's not what happens. The reality just disappears, and then it reappears in one sense. And you might be doing what seems like the same thing, or you're the same person, but then you see none of that's true. There's no same person. There's no same thing. There's no same anything. It's just, it flashes, And so you get used to letting go, like letting go. That's why sometimes I say weird things like, death is staring me in the face all the time. It's not a thing I got over. It's not something I had to work through, or fears of it. Like there were iterations of it around that, like fear of death and that, but it's actually reality. Like like coming into being and dying are just all the time. And it feels like a love affair.
This actually makes a lot of sense. So I just got through probably my 2 busiest weeks out of the year at work. Because I work in a pharmacy, and we're having our mass vaccination campaign with COVID and flu, and it was like constant, and it was just one thing to the next. It was absolutely wonderful in that context. Like it was so nice to not have to think about what comes next. It just is happening, and I love that part of it. I was still absolutely exhausted, but it's a different feeling compared to how it used to be.
Awesome.
Yeah, in a way, this is the death of procrastination, because procrastination was a resistance to the anticipatory expected thought of what was coming. And so it's ironic. It's also strange too, because there's no thought ahead of time. There's no thought really during, and there's definitely no thought and reflection. And if that particular process doesn't play itself out, we find ourselves deeply in a flow state where we're no longer under the illusion of agency as we get closer and closer to the paradox of this very instant. And, you know, on a practical note, just use your voice assistant. If you have Siri, use that all the time, because you know what it feels like? It feels like scheduling is gambling. Really, that's all it is. Maybe this will exist, but there's no way to know for sure. And I think I sent Angelo a text at one point and I said, scheduling is like throwing a pebble into a pond, taking a nap, and then waking up and looking for the splash.
Yep.
Yeah, that's kind of what it's like. So all good.
Yeah, it's low. The nice thing about scheduling is it's low stakes gambling. Okay, that was fun.
All right. Thank you guys so much.
Nice to see you. Yeah, take care. All righty, let's go to Scott.
Hi guys.
Hey, Scott.
Hey, I've been definitely, time has been something that's been definitely, it's kind of, because today I see people awaken in different ways in different parts. That time thing has been something for me, big time, huh? Like just like at work, I noticed the no doership at work a lot of times, because I guess it's automated things more, so you can kind of take back, hey, wait, I'm not even, what am I doing now? Okay, I guess we're doing that. Like how someone would say it's like automatic things. I've also noticed that I'm having to slow my friendliness and cheerfulness at work with other employees, because they're getting worn out. And I'm like, I think I'm becoming an annoyance, because I'm always like, hey guys, cheery time or whatever, so it's like ridiculous. So I'm like, okay, I need to chill that out. And I need to and I thought, well, maybe I could turn that into helpfulness for them, like be supportive of them, help them, raise them up higher, whatever. So I'm turning that into that more, because I can see how it'd be kind of annoying, but it's because, like you guys are saying, maybe while I'm doing this thing, I'm stressing out, but then when I'm done doing that, I might go to the restroom, and when I enter the bathroom, it's like I've never not been in the bathroom. It is the bathroom. That's all there is. It all drops away. So it's like, I'm done with that. It's gone. So that's some fun things for sure. I'm like, I like that, yeah. And my mind at this point, feel like it looks for reasons I feel like the voice, reflections, thoughts, maybe even emotions, they will sell out at any cost to get you to believe in them and to keep the ego together. It'll say whatever you want, do whatever it'll even insult itself. It'll act like it's on your side and getting that good old voice and stuff. So I'm noticing that it does that. Like I can get it to freak out about the time thing right now if I want it to. Like, oh no, there's no, what do you mean? I have to keep track. I'm dumb, whatever. I'm gonna be like Phoebe, the spiritual, classic spiritual person on TV where they're kind of ditzy. So I can do that. So I'm like, I'm wanting to look at in the mornings I can sense this the most. So I can hear the voice. I'm getting very clear that emotions and thoughts just come. Like, I'm like, wow, I'm not doing anything. And then I even have it to where the observer who comments on those is commenting and I'm not involved. But then I'm noticing, wait a minute, I'm always just pushing back a little further. So it's still creating a feeling of separateness. So I don't know if you guys could talk about that or whatever, that'd be cool.
What you got? Anybody? Pam, Josh, Alma, anyone?
Pam's got something.
All right.
No, I don't. I'm trying to process. I'm trying to process the question, because I am not sure I understand it. Restate your question for me, Scott.
Okay, so if I was to restate, or just the main thing, I guess reflect on when it comes to, like, there's something there, even when I'm pulled away, I'm noticing that there's still a feeling, thought of separateness, even when the observer is commenting on what's being said. So I've pulled away from being the observer, quote unquote, but I'm still not, I still feel like like I'm still attached to an I. So I'm pulled back more, but I still feel like my brain's still trying to create that. It's not releasing. I don't know. Does that make it's so hard to explain this stuff?
Wow. Okay. I'm trying to process that. So it feels like you're not, when you talk about you're being jovial and happy and you feel like that's a little too much at work. So it feels like, are you somewhat resistant to your personality, to who you are, to do you lack that do you lack confidence in who's, how do I put that?
Well, yeah, that's something I have discovered. I think I'm always a high energy person, and I think I was shamed for that. So that could be part of that. But that kind of makes me right. So there's times when I'm at work where I do feel like it's this, it's just that, it's just that. But then other times I'm feeling that I'm not, that there's still a feeling of self, observing my thoughts, all of them, including the thoughts that think about the thoughts, that comment on the thoughts. But I'm always
okay. Yeah, because there's really nothing wrong with thoughts. It's your thoughts about the thoughts and your resistance about the thoughts. And if you go down that path, it just goes on and on and on and on forever.
It's infinite.
Yeah, it's infinite. And so that's the one thing that I am speaking from my experience. I wanted to get to the point where I don't have any thoughts. Oops, I sat back down. Sorry, I can only see my point. I sat back. I'm sorry. I just would be like, I don't want thoughts. I don't want any thoughts. I have to get to the point where there's no thoughts. And that's not possible. The difference is do you identify with those thoughts or do you just let them dissolve? Because they're just coming out of nowhere.
I'm able to let them dissolve most of the time. Sometimes they'll grab me. But then I start wondering, well, who's even, it feels like what I can be at is a place where I can give focus to the thoughts, feed them more or not feed them more. But then who's controlling the focus? Who's choosing to feed? I don't think that's even me either. I feel like I just attached to that as an I too. So, yeah.
I'm going to tell you the only experience I can speak from, of course, is my own experience from my own filters and and this may not help you at all. And I'm sorry, it may not, because I can only speak where I came from, but where I truly got rid of the I sense and the self sense was when I reached a large degree of equanimity. And that was just sitting with all the things that I was resisting, because that's what causes that I sense is so much resistance. And I had to sit down in I don't know if you want to call it meditation, inquiry, whatever you want to call it, but examining, where is this resistance? Where's it coming from? There was some shadow work there to be done. And the more I did that, and the more equanimity that came into my life, then the I sense dissolved. So I don't know if that helps you or not, but equanimity was huge.
It does. It does. I'm actually,
for me.
I think it definitely does because, and I am working on that, because, yeah, I think the resistance creates my I feeling because it's me against the world kind of thing, and so yeah, I still have some. I definitely can. Be resistant.
So that if you know there's resistance there, then there's your starting point. That's the entry point to start looking at that resistance and where's it coming from, and is that just requires kind of just sitting with it, and Angelo is much more accomplished at speaking to that than I am, but
yeah, and that would explain why it comes and goes, because maybe there'll be something where it brings the resistance up versus someday it's wonderful, and then all of a sudden, boom, back to Meh. Angry
Right.
me against the world.
And resistance is there at every in this little path. It's surprised me how much resistance I had in my own life, and the resistance I had to look at. And it wasn't always pretty, but it's worth the look. It's worth every penny.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Alma, I think, had a comment as well.
Yeah, I loved everything that Pam said. And I had a thought kind of maybe along a different avenue. One inquiry question you could ask to like snap out of that hyper self-reflective state where you're like scrambling to figure out how to break the spell. You could ask, who has the ability to move attention? Who can move attention? And see if you could find the one that moves attention, that can choose what thought to focus on or not focus on.
Okay. Yeah. So kind of in a way, go to whatever I'm currently identifying as, ask, who has that? Who has that control? Because I've also tasted, I mean, we've all tasted, if someone were to, a bomb just occur in your backyard, you would all instantly, your focus would turn there. You didn't choose to turn there.
Exactly.
Something else is turning you there. Yeah.
Exactly. But the illusion is a sense that you can choose.
Yes.
Right? So that's what you're trying to break in that moment, because it's like an analysis paralysis moment. You're like, what should I focus on? And yeah, you want to realize that thing that you just said in your own experience when there isn't a bomb going off, when you have
and would you guys
a
say,
stream of thoughts.
Yeah. So would you be able to, are you able to, you yourself able to obtain a point where like you are reality and things are just happening and that's all there is? There's no choose to focus. You're not feeling that you're choosing focus or anything. A complete lack, like almost like you're watching a simulated character do his thing? Or be a part of that in a way?
First part you said is accurate, but there's no watcher. There's no one watching anything.
Right. Yeah. So that's gone. Okay. It's reality.
Well, because you see clearly what a thought is. See that only a thought could say that there's a simulated character or that you're choosing to focus on something.
Oh, God.
Right. And what Pam was saying is that there's resistance to that. There's resistance to seeing a thought as a thought, because there's a sense of holding back and a sense of management. Like, I need to manage my thoughts, but that's the illusion. That's not true. It's not like that.
I'm just seeing how much it struggles to exist too. Like, oh my gosh, it is so clever.
It's made out of struggle. The struggle is what keeps it alive.
I don't want to overload you with stuff. I don't want us to overload you, but I want to say one thing, and I'm just affirming essentially what Pam said at the beginning. The connection she made, I make that same connection. When we're talking in this way, I generally assume when people bring something up, it's pertinent. And when you talked about the people at work and like being boisterous and super boisterous, and it feels like, okay, I'm moving toward them so much. It's like, in one way of speaking, it's like you're trying to control the environment by being the one that's always engaging and always fun or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. People do this all different ways. Some people do it through like overt control or manipulation. Some people do it through being funny all the time. Some people do all kinds of things, but there's probably something in the emotion body around your public image or your validation.
Oh yeah. It's a shield.
But that connects directly to this going into the head so much, this meta thought. There's probably a connection in there somewhere. And it can be very surprising because they don't actually seem connected. Like, why am I at home by myself right now? There's no one around. I'm not at work, but my mind's going a million miles an hour. And then that, how does that connect to like an emotional sense of trying to seek validation constantly from other people? It doesn't seem connected, but they are connected, because everything in the mind is connected in this big mesh of, unexpressed truths, unexamined beliefs, and unmet emotional needs.
Interesting.
There's a lot of truest nature showing up here, and then it's being co-opted. That's what it is. So there's part of you that has this truest nature, this energy, this positivity, whatever that is. I think that's actually authentic for you. And then there's a secondary component, and that's the component that's causing problems. In fact, that's the same component that's caused problems in your past where people have told you that, hey, man, you're too much. It's because because the mind is telling you, with all of this that's coming out of me, I got to do something with this. I have to do something about it. So this practice in stillness is allow yourself to be in the midst of that kind of energetic space, and you don't have to do a damn thing on the outside. You don't have to make a sound. You don't have to talk to somebody. You don't have to make a joke. Feel that all the way, and that will take you to this place that Pam nailed it. Equanimity will be there. Because it's already there. Your truest nature is screaming all the time, but there's this other part saying, well, I'm going to utilize this and create social currency with it.
Now, sometimes at work I can be real quiet and stuff, but when it's in the action, interacting, like you said, it's a character I've created to defense, or joking around with everyone. That seems like a defense too.
Yeah, and the key would be, what you said is true. No, humans aren't machines. We don't do everything the same way all the time. And it's a conditions-based thing. So when conditions are right, you're going to start validation seeking. So there may be times when you're quiet at work, but what I would suggest, or what Joss is suggesting, would be actually do a bit of an experiment and see when you don't feel like being quiet at work, when you really feel like, oh, I got to get in this conversation or talk to that person, just stop, just really stop, and just actually give yourself the challenge of sitting and not actually engaging, not putting your personality out there, not talking to someone, nothing, just actually sort of observing the inside and outside, but particularly the inside. Feel what you're feeling. And that's a really quick way to get in touch with restlessness. The energetic restlessness, the stuff we talk about fourth and fifth fetter, or equanimity and reactivity. That's, you'll feel this like you want to just jump out of your skin. I want to do something, but go, can I do this for 30 seconds? Can I do it for 60 seconds? And it'll feel pretty uncomfortable, but make a practice of it and just challenge yourself and see. And that will be the stage which your emotions come out on. Finally, the emotions will start coming for, okay, oh, I'm feeling jealousy. That person, I'm feeling competitiveness. When that person comes in, that's when I want to engage so much. Or I'm feeling sadness. That person reminds me of someone who hurt me. Who knows? It could be anything. But you won't see it when you're already in reaction, and reaction is a lot is behavior, essentially, right? So I think what Josh said is, it's a very simple approach. Just give yourself some time. See, can I actually not engage when I feel really inclined to engage? Just for a while.
This is a question my brain wants to grab onto. Who is deciding to do these things you're telling me to do? Is it just because you're conditioning me to do? And is it even worth being that game? Because that's the mind game again.
Yeah, you don't need to wonder that.
Okay.
It's useless. So someone left a comment on my video, like I think it was last night, and they said, they go, you contradict yourself. And that's what they said to me, right? And this is what they said. And I understand where they're coming from, but they said, you contradict yourself. You say that there's no doer, and yet you give us ideas of what to do. And I said, that's not a contradiction. There is doing, there is no doer. It's extremely obvious. It's extremely clear. Doing happens. There is no doer. It's not a problem to solve. Non-doership is an interesting one because it can give you a sense of what it feels like at first when you hear about the concept of it and whatever. But until it's truly realized, you don't need to think about it because it will totally twist your mind up. Don't worry about that.
You don't need to strategize about this either.
Yeah.
Just know that you already have this. It's already available to you. Just treat it like a game. See if you can play outside of what is usual. Play outside of the pattern. That's it. And I think what you'll find is, just like Angelo said, there might be sensations or emotional experiences that arise, and that's going to give you a place to look. And then everything that Pam and Alma has said, that's going to take you all the way to that space. It's just worthy of just experiment and see what happens. But you don't need to strategize ahead of time.
Okay.
What you're doing now is you're tapping into an intention that's like has its own inertia here. You're tapping in. And when it comes up, it'll just be spontaneous and effortless when you allow yourself to go there. It might feel like a little effort at first because it's going to feel like maybe you're resisting an impulse, but I think it'll reveal something for you.
Well, I have done that some, and it feels like you're pushing the clutch in on a revving engine, so the gears aren't catching you. So now the emotions and stuff are just
sit there in complete stillness and rev on the inside, even if it means if it feels like there's a nuclear weapon being set off inside of you. Sit with that nuke. And don't do a damn thing. It's the hot iron you can neither spit out nor swallow. Do that all the time.
Okay, thank you guys.
You're welcome. The biggest illusion when it comes to what we're talking about, which is like intense emotion work or meaning emotion work when the emotions are intense, with a lot of reactivity, resistance, all that. The biggest belief that's a false belief that once you really see through it, it changes everything with this kind of work is the belief, I can't handle this. I don't have the capacity for this. It's just not true. You do. You're just not experienced at it, or you've been running from it so long that, not you, but anyone listening, you've been running from it so long that your mind just gets spun up. It's like, no, 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 no. But the no is all up here. The body can't say no. The body's a vessel of sensation. So get down there, magic.
Thank you, guys.
Cool. Yeah, you were fun. That was cool. Thank you. He's a fun guy. Soren. He is. Okay, we got Soren. What you got for us?
Hey.
Hey.
Well, I just want to say now that Josh says that I'm, when it comes to time, I blame Angela and Josh for me losing time. After watching your video about time. Yeah, because the way I'm actually started to see things now is like I'm not seeing things move in time. It's more like things are just changing in the sense field, whatever. So, but anyways, last week during your Q&A, I told you about I was in a vacation house, a summer house in nature, close to the ocean, and told you about how I got sick, or the body got sick, and that slowed it all down. And I talked about the experience of that it was like the body was just, it was like the body was sick, but it was not me who was sick. It was just happened to be in it. And you asked me the question if there is a body. And I took that question to me and explored it, sat with it. It kind of almost broke my mind the next day. It was like, yeah, I don't know what happened, but all of a sudden it was like there was experiencing. Then there were thoughts about what it was that I was experiencing, but those were separate in a way. So there was just an experience of this, and then of course thoughts coming in and saying, "Well, this is the body, this is the hand," but it was very clear that thought came after the experience of it. So it's very clear that this is just whatever this is just what it is, and that also it extended to other things. It was just no longer just the body. It was also like when I'm looking at this, it's on the phone that I'm watching, and the experience is just that there's something here that I'm experiencing, and of course thoughts can then explain what it is, but it's just an experience. And I also noticed that when I'm during the next day after you asked me that question, what I did was I went into the nature and I sat on a large sand dune, on a bench on the sand dune. I was just watching the sand and all the plants that was there, and all the colors, and everything was just so much more vivid. It's like the experiencing of the things became much more strong and raw. And of course, thoughts were still coming in, but they were immediately just recognized as just being thoughts. And they didn't change the experience at all. It was just experiencing. Yeah, so that kind of happened. And now I'm back. I'm back home, and well, actually not back home. I'm in a hotel room right now because I'm at a at a at school. And today I was sitting in class and watching a demonstration, and I also noticed then that a lot of things were kind of competing for my attention in a way. It was very difficult for me to separate out all the noise that was happening around me. I was watching this demonstration while at the same time I could hear some, I don't know what it was, something going beep 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 every couple of minutes, just beep 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 all the time. And then I could hear carpenters working, and I could hear cars, and it was always all this noise was just but it was being experienced before thoughts coming in. But it was like there was something. It was like something was competing, and that for my attention in some way. It was very difficult for me to sit in that. And right now, I'm in a mixed state of having a sense of love, but also a sense of sadness, like I've lost something. When I was up at the vacation house, there was so much silence, so much calmness, and it was very, very easy to just be present and just be. But now it's like, oh shit, life has come back in, and now I have to cope with that as well. So yeah, I don't know if there's any question here really, or other than maybe just a reporting of what has happened. But this is kind of where I am right now.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, a sense of sadness, like I've lost something. And there's also still this kind of this urgency, like something has to change. But I've kind of lost that connection to what that is. Hope it makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Anyone have anything?
Well, if nobody goes, yeah. So what I'll say is there was definitely a period that was very viscerally the same. The one thing that came up is I didn't have to find what it is that seems to have been lost, so that have to was gone. And the secondary part was whatever that grieving seemed to be, just to allow that to be full all the way. And there was a point where it was like looking at identity, and it was like looking at this little boy who was young and skinny and attempting to push this giant boulder up over this hill, struggling. It was like watching that from a distance. And there was a sense of grieving about that, constant fighting, constant all this, and it was just starting to just disintegrate. And part of that seemed to be grieving. And so just if there is a sense of sadness there, it's okay. Feel that. You'll be fine. And you don't have to find what it is that seems to be lost. That's all. It works itself out quite well from here.
And I think too that goes back to the very root of it all. If I understand you right, and correct me if I'm wrong, but when you were on vacation and you're at a beach, and it's easy to find that presence and that stillness, and then life happens again, and we get back into our routines, and that goes back to Fetters 4 and 5 of that struggle to always want to be comfortable, that the mind's thoughts of what's comfortable, what's not comfortable, I can't abide if there's this noise going on, or I can't, everything has to be still around me for me to be still. Goes back to those resistance patterns. And I'm not great at talking about this, but Angela, finish that for
You're
me.
doing fine.
Finish
It
that
made
for
sense.
me. I know you know what I'm trying to say there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that I picked up for whatever reason in the whole narrative that you started with the question stem or the statement, the one thing that stuck out to me for whatever reason was when you said, like, you know, there's kind of just everything's happening. Everything's in flow, and there's the flux of experience that's essentially non-dual in the way you're describing it. And then there's something that's grabbing my attention, is how you said it. There's something grabbing my attention. Grabbing something. There's the non-dual experience, or this flow that is seamless, no inside, no outside, no one in it really. And there's something grabbing my attention. Is that the actual mechanism? Just look at the mechanism. Is there something grabbing someone's attention? What is it that's grabbing attention? Is some attention being pulled from somewhere to somewhere else? What is attention experientially in that moment? Just look close. I don't want to give an answer of any kind. Just look closely at that mechanism, and it could change the quality of that feeling of struggling between, you know, intense environments and very, very peaceful environments. That this stuff just gets very subtle, is what it is. But that sense that there's some little piece of something in you that needs to manage it, or needs to really pay attention where my attention is now. And, you know, that's all I felt in what you said. There's a lot of clarity there for sure. So most of the stuff really just takes care of itself, even without having to see something very particular. But that could be a little area of investigation if you're interested in, like, what do you mean by something grabs my attention? Well, where's the me that's getting its attention grabbed, and what's the nature of that, and what's grabbing it? And right, obviously that you could just say that's just one thought, and it is, but look really closely at the mechanism, and that can just be a place to look, not analytically, by the way. Just slow it down, slow the process down, slow the movement of attention down, or whatever. And just look closer and closer and closer and closer. If you look at anything close enough, you'll see infinity. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. We got Paul up.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Hey, Paul. Yep.
Wow, it's amazing seeing you all. I've been on the channel for a while, and yeah, it's really great seeing you all. So I'm at a point where with inquiry, I get to the place that you talk about, you know, that's very clear. But when I sit with that for a while, I guess I notice a little bit of a sense of like anticipation. And if I sit with it for, you know, like an hour or something, eventually either I'll like fall asleep, even if I'm sitting up, or I'll notice that there starts to be some like discursive thought kind of that quietly starts to kind of natter in the background, like completely meaningless. It's not even like a tangible story or anything. It'll just kind of come into attention. And then it's like attention, you know, is redirected back to, you know, the point of inquiry. But I guess I've heard you talk a lot about doubt, Angelo, and it's something that it's not something that I would say I recognize, but that makes me think maybe that's part of this, and sort of like a subtle sense of anticipation or something. Yeah, so just thoughts on this would be great.
It's a really good question. My simple reflection on what you said is you're making the right connections in this step. the way of this space you're talking about. And the connection you're making is that there's some bit of background narrative there, even if the mind is getting quiet, even if you're sort of entering a space of that feels sort of vast. But that happens, you know, with good inquiry or concentrating the mind or a one-pointed approach, you can kind of find this place of sort of equanimity of mind that's not common, that you're not used to, and it feels nice. And yet, that's not the depth this can go to. Meaning there can very easily be this sort of other layer of thought, and maybe we can call it the monitoring layer or the watcher layer or the wondering layer. Oh, I wonder what's happening here, you know, without it even almost pre-verbal, right? Before you're really having structured thoughts or narratives. But I think you identified that and you said, yeah, there's something still there, something. And then you identified, this is the connection I think you did really well, is you identified doubt. So it's like, what I want to say is look into doubt. Look into how is doubt related to that other layer of thought. What is doubt? What is doubt other than a thought, right? And what does doubt, how does it make you feel in that moment? What does it do mechanistically to attention in consciousness and mind and thought? And maybe what do you get out of doubting, right? What is the benefit of doubting? Well, one is it immediately brings you back to the known. You're familiar with doubt, right? The mind is laden with doubt. And the more confident we are about the concepts we think we really, really understand, the more we have a terrible fear of doubt, right? So doubt is just interwoven with thought, with at least identified thought. So I think you're right in the ballpark of investigating something there and being willing to go beyond doubt. Can you imagine going beyond doubt? What would that mean? You know, you can't really imagine it, but like we're just as this exercise right now. What would it mean? What would it mean to go beyond doubt? And what if doubt is just that little background layer of thought that says, I don't know, you know, and then it leads to another thought and another thought. So what is beyond doubt? Well, I'll tell you one thing, it's doubtless, right? But you can't, believing that can't get you the what you want, what you really, really want here. But going beyond doubt can. And it's possible. That's all I got. Anyone?
Yeah, I totally agree with sort of that other layer you were talking about of like a subtle observation layer. Yeah.
Paul, for you, something that Angelo pointed out, and this is just pure intuition. That which is known is definitely the crutch. So anticipation, just know, ironically, just investigate this. Anticipation is coming from a sense of knowing something that's coming. So for you, there's probably going to be a fear barrier, and we've been pointing a lot to that fear barrier this week in other venues. There's a fear barrier of what is known that's going to happen, and then there's a fear barrier of what is unknown. And that anticipation and that doubt that Angelo is pointing to, the imagination that he's kind of leading you into, will start to push you into that unknown space. That unknown space, that's where all the magic's going to happen for you, for sure.
Okay.
Is that clear?
Yeah, it's interesting you bring up the fear barrier because I've wondered if that's something that's really going to happen. But perhaps it's inevitable.
Well, actually, if you're not sensing that now, that's actually even a stronger indication that that you're really not entertaining the unknown a ton. That's all.
Okay.
So without anticipation, without having a sense of what might be coming, what is that experience like?
Right. Having like a fixed idea of what this is about or where it leads. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because that spontaneity can really start to bring up very visceral sensations. It's immediate in that way. And it might be really outside of what seems to be the structure of what is common, usual, and within identity at this point for you. So it's worthy of at least exploring that a little bit. If I don't have an anticipation, if things are kind of improvisational, spontaneous, and immediate, what is that like?
Right. Okay.
Anything to add, Pam?
No. I think that's perfect.
Someone wrote a question in comments I'll read, and it's
Thanks, guys.
You're welcome. This is kind of along the lines of what we were just talking about, actually. So someone said, I had the experience of looking towards where everything comes from, and fear arose. I turned my attention away. Then I turned my attention away. Now I think this is the only way of waking up, but are there baby steps? If I find it, if I find out how to ask the question, I'm sorry. This is just about asking the question live. So yeah, it's like, is there, when I turn my attention to this person's just calling it the source of everything or where everything comes from, what I'm going to call it is the totally unknown, right? Probably. So when you turn toward that, as Josh just said, it's very typical to feel some level of fear. One thing is darn sure is it's unknown. It's not what you're used to. And when the mind comes into contact with not what it's used to, or more like it has no way of structuring itself in this space, that's when it starts to scramble, and it will feel like something fearful, sublime, maybe. Now, often you'll turn toward this. This is more for the questioner now. You'll turn toward this and feel an intense fear. And then the conclusion could be, oh, well, every time I do that, the same thing's going to happen. Well, the unknown is the unknown. So you actually don't know that. You may go back into it the next time or right at it, and there's no fear. There may be fear again. And sometimes there is for several times, and often it just subsides. Some people just get so pissed and frustrated, they just go right through the fear. And they're just like, I'm going to feel as much fear as I need to, and I'll just die into it. Whatever. I'm just so frustrated with fighting with this and struggling because you're at the door. But everybody's different. For me, it wasn't like that. For me, I felt a lot of fear and intensity of stepping off an edge of reality, and I knew it, and I backed out. And then, like, just later, I had an intuition, like, if that happens again, I'm just going to step right over. And the second time it happened, there wasn't fear. There was an energetic intensity for sure. There was something that felt like like a whoosh, like something really different was happening. And again, it's that letting go of the constant attempt. And it's only an attempt, and it's only an illusion, but for the mind to orient itself. All it's really doing is orienting itself to itself, and there's nothing there. So it requires a lot of energy to keep that illusion going. And that's why you feel frustrated, burnt out, confused, thought. But when you just move past that, it feels like something. I would say that the experience was probably more like sublime after I'd gone through the fear. Once the fear wasn't there, it was more like a sublime. Expansive may be a good word because it's just beyond. It's beyond the scope of what you were taking yourself to be like one moment before. So something like that. So don't turn what happened before into anything, because it's not anything now. It's gone, and you never know what's going to happen. But you know where to go. That's what really matters here. You know exactly where to go because you said it here in the question.
Angelo, it's the hokey pokey. So Angelo, he can tell the story, but you've probably heard it. The bumper sticker that he saw right after awakening said, what if the hokey pokey really is what it's all about? And so the baby steps look like this. You put your right hand in, and then you might take it out. And then you put your right hand in, and then you shake it all around. I mean, truly, it is that. You just continue going. You know what it is now. You have a sense of what it is, and you just keep going there. And there will be a point where readiness is ready. It's not even really a choice 100, like in the way that is classically what is a choice. We just go where we go. So now that you keep your finger on the pulse of what that is. And that's really what the baby steps look like. And if it means that you need to take a break, as Angelo has mentioned, do so. Take a break. But the pulse, so you can always return. And that's the name of the game here, really. It's the hokey pokey. Because eventually you put your whole self in, and then you take your whole self out.
Or you put your whole self in, and then there's no self to take back out.
Right.
Yeah. That's kind of what I did. I put my whole self in right at the get-go because I knew I was so fed up with what was going on, that I had read Angelo's book. I knew there was a fear barrier. I didn't care. I jumped right off the cliff, right off the bat. No right foot in, no left foot in, just all in, all in. Boom, done. And here I am, alive to tell about it, and it's all good. But you do feel during that 3 or 4 days, I thought I died, literally. I thought, wow, I'm gone. This is awesome, but it was great. I still saw everything. People still communicated with me, but I was gone. So it was awesome.
Yeah. And that's a
Yeah.
big jump. And that happens for some people too. It happened to me. That's exactly how it felt for me. It was like, yeah, all like scaffoldings of reality were collapsing and until there was nothing left to collapse anymore. And then it was just, I don't even know. I don't know how to say it. Never been able to say it, but it's right here. Yeah. Okay, let's go down to Frankie.
Hey there.
Hey.
So, yeah, my question is around this like experience of like extreme acceleration, and where it's showing up is in it's showing up in relationships. And it's like extreme movements of like flooding and emptying, you know, like things binding and then coming unbound. And just seeing that that like that illusion of any kind of self-control is just fucking not there, you know. So something good is like so good I can't, you know, almost can't stand it, you know. And then if it's extreme in the other like polarity, it's like it's just bringing everything up. Yeah, like just up from the basement, like and things that seem like they would have taken me before, you know, days or weeks to work through, now just, you know, they either kind of explode and are over, and I get to see like all the places where I'm still really reactive, with his bits and pieces of really just old stuff. And I'm like, wow, I thought that was gone, but it's not gone. And where it's showing up is like in close relationships or even new relationships that are just starting. That's where it shows up the most. And yeah, like and it seems that what's missing is sort of any kind of equanimity. It's just really like super volatile, you know, is the only way I can describe it. You know, and it all resolves itself, you know, but I think what's, yeah, it's just really, it's really hard.
Yeah, feel it. Just feel this. Just stay with the emotion, you know. We've all been through all of this many times, and it's just what wants to come to the surface.
You know, and it doesn't feel like there's anything wrong. It's just super intense.
It is.
It's just super intense.
Let it overtake.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the other thing. It's like there's a sense of, you know, I'm good at holding on for dear life, you know. But that allowing of letting go is the thing that I'm just don't have a lot of practice.
This is kind of why I was saying the emotion. Go to the emotion. Like, what emotion is this? Just let it be a pure emotion.
This is the practice.
There you go. See, you're just right there with it now. That's it. The mind says too much, can't handle whatever. But this is, you're just feeling, and it's fine. I think the problem. This is like a larger question or larger answer for everyone. But one of the biggest challenges we have with emotion is we just are taught. We're shown so many improper models of how to actually feel. We're shown every way to experience an emotion except for actually feeling it, and it's ubiquitous, and among humans. And so it's an art to learn to feel an emotion, and it's an intimate relational thing with yourself. It's beautiful that we are called to do this during this process.
Yeah, and I teach martial arts, and I've been doing martial arts my whole life, and I know, from experience and practice, I know it's energetic, right? It's all energetics. Even the movement is energetics. Like the hardest thing in teaching is showing physically what energetics are.
Yeah.
But when it's happening actively, where it's really clear there's no control to be had over the energetics. They're just, there's been a buildup, and then there's this big release, and it's just messy. It's just really messy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's the part where, if there's any struggle, that's the part where the struggle comes in, because it's just so messy.
It appears messy when it's out of control. That's all.
Yeah.
And this can be common for people who have a lot of martial arts training. Is there is an essence of taking energy, emotion, whatever, and funneling it into a controlled manner. And so I think you're tapping into it in a really natural way. And it's a matter of, when does that little piece come up and say, oh, this needs to be controlled. This needs to be monitored. This needs to be evaluated. What if you didn't even evaluate it? What would that be like? Get all the way messy, full messiness. Give yourself that permission, and then just see what that is. See what that's like. I think you'll find that there's a very deep catharsis there. You come to a state of stillness that's just profound.
Yeah. Yeah, like I'm good at the storm. I'm not so good at the eye of the storm,
Totally.
Yeah.
And that's just habitual. That's just a pattern.
Yeah.
Right. And that stillness can have its own energetic signature. Absolutely. And that can be something that's, for some people, wants to be pushed against or resisted, or we start manufacturing or creating something to push against or resist. So it's okay.
Yeah. Well,
you use the word practice. You're doing it now, like all the time. This is your new method of existence.
Yeah. The irony is, I teach Aikido, and that's exactly what Aikido is, right? It's like non-resistance, right? It's exactly what you just said. So I get practice at it, even when I don't realize that I'm practicing.
Sure. Yeah.
And all that's really changing is that the illusion of control is being dispelled, or the illusion of order.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, exactly. There's no sequence. There's no order to any of it.
That's exactly what I was going to say, Alma. The control thing is, yep. That's perfect.
Like the coping mechanism is breaking down, and that coping mechanism was what was maintaining the illusion in place. So it might feel like you're unequipped to handle it, or you don't have your usual tools.
Yeah, just the word that comes to mind is unregulated,
Yeah.
So.
You're in a good place. You're in a good place. I mean, you're feeling, and that's what matters. And I think you know, just keep like letting yourself dial into it, which just means letting the emotion lead physically, energetically, and just notice some of those thoughts. They can pop up. I can't handle this. This is too much. This is dysregulated. This is messy. Like, so what? These are thoughts, really. I mean, you're there. Body can handle this. Yeah, let it cry, let it twitch. Maybe it has to shake. Maybe whatever. It's fine. Maybe it has to yell into a pillow. It happens. Happens.
It does a lot of that these days.
Yeah, it'll settle over time, but there can be a lot of repressed material in adult human beings. It can take some time to work it out. Thanks so much.
No, thank you. Thank you all.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good to see you, buddy. All right, Kate, what's up?
Hello.
Long time no see. How you doing?
Long time. I'm doing okay. Physically, I'm in a little bit of pain. I had a lumbar puncture yesterday.
Oh my goodness. Oof.
Yeah, fun times. Hi. Hey, Josh.
Hello.
Hey, Alma.
Hello.
Pam. I didn't see the beginning, so I missed the
Pam.
intro.
Yep.
On
Yep.
who Pam
Pam's our
is,
double.
but...
Pam's the other barrel. We're
Yes.
we're a 3-in-1 barrel.
3-in-1. Okay. Awesome. Okay. So my question, actually, I feel like this might maybe a question that Alma might be able to answer, because Alma, you were talking earlier about not having like a formal meditation practice, and my question right now is about consistency. Hang on, I wrote 3 words. Yeah, consistency, momentum of mind identification, and integration. So the question is basically like, well, last week I was doing a lot of back and forth with Angelo about some beliefs, and that was really good. I feel like I was like getting to some really, some really important core beliefs there. And then I hit a wall, and I was like, okay, I can't go on, right? So it's like I need to take a break, and just take a break from it. It's like there's no more juice. There's no more juice. There's just no more energy to do that. And I feel like this this is what happens, and maybe this is normal about it's like dig into something and then hit a wall, and then it almost feels like I just kind of like abandon that, and then I might move on to a different practice for a while, or no practice for a while, and then come back. And so it just feels like there's because I've been thinking about mind identification and sort of, how probably some consistency with interrupting that mind identification is important to kind of slow it down.
Can I stop you right there?
Yes.
What is that wall made out of? What's that wall that you hit?
What is it made of? That's a good question. I guess resistance.
What do you mean by resistance? What's your
It's
experience of hitting a wall?
The experience is I just can't move forward. I just can't move forward anymore.
Is it, what are you first aware of? That you lose interest? Is it maybe frustration, fear?
Maybe fatigue.
Fatigue. Okay.
Yeah.
And what if you were to sit with that instead of moving on to something else?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's kind of what it feels like. It has to have. It's like I can't do anything for a while. It's like that comes, and it's just like there's nothing else that can be done for a while, and then maybe a week will pass or more, and then maybe I'll have a meeting with somebody else, or I'll talk to Angelo or talk to Josh, whatever, and then like, oh, new practice that's suggested, and then I'll move into that, right? But then
I think there's something there about sticking to one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think fundamentally behind this resistance and fatigue, there's probably going to be some degree of fear, because the next step would involve seeing something that is frightening, right? That is takes you one step beyond what is known, and it's easier to just get pulled away by something else, to know something else that's more at the superficial level, right? But you want to go one step deeper. You want to break the spell of mind identification. So that means that this ties back to the conversation we were having about the fear barrier. I think that's what you want to look for, that fear barrier, and that's going to be right after the resistance. So if you stay with the fatigue long enough, you might encounter fear, and I would guide you towards that experientially.
Okay, so when I notice that, like that feeling of hitting the wall, just kind of stop there and sit in that.
Yes. And maybe you could ask, like, what would it mean to take one step further in this direction? What would that look like? Or you could ask, what do I not want to see right now with this? What is it that's triggering? Like, for example, in that conversation you had with Angelo about the core beliefs that you said you hit the wall. What was it that made you throw your hands up in the air?
It wasn't really a sense of throwing my hands up in the air, but it's just a sense of like, it's like I sat down. So basically what I was doing is every morning I was sitting down and looking at some of these beliefs that I'd uncovered and working with them for maybe an hour or whatever, but it was just like, you know, after 4 or 5 days of that, I sat and it was just like, I can't do it. Okay. Just almost, I don't know, like my feeling, like the word that comes to mind is integration, but I don't even know if that's a thing. Does that make sense? What is that?
Okay, so it sounds to me like I'm feeling like some sense of like rigidity or stubbornness around this. Like maybe like there's an expectation that something should happen or that you should accomplish something more, and maybe there's nothing more to do with that.
I think Angelo said the same thing to me last week. Yeah.
Yeah, in one way of speaking, you could say just the whole thing we're talking about is like insisting that there's a problem with Kate. What if there's no problem with Kate? Like truly, like there just is not a problem to solve. What if I take all of your problems away right now? What then?
Well, that's terrifying, right?
That is terrifying, yeah.
Oh, well, there you go. That's the emotion to feel. Feel the fear of giving up. Feel the fear that it's caused you when you have to give up the project of Kate. Because it's a project that we'll never accomplish.
Yeah.
You'll never win this game.
There's a little more to it too. Is what does having a project of Kate gain you? What do you get out of it? You're getting something out of it.
Pam, you want to nail the last nail in her coffin?
Well, I mean, you guys have had some previous conversations, so I'm not sure where exactly you are, if you've had that initial shift or not. So
I don't know either.
Yeah, I think I can tell you just from where I'm coming from, there is no project, because I didn't even know there was such a thing as a project. I just said, hey, this awake thing sounds like something I need to do, even though I had no clue what it was. And so I think that helped me in that I had no clue I was on a project. There was no project. There was just paying attention to what was coming, and maybe just that trying so hard that will prevent, and you will wear you out. You'll be like, well, this, and no, you can't find it there. You can't find it there because it's not a project. It's a unproject. It's undoing.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, is like everything sounds like doing to me. It's like, okay,
Yeah, and
like like the project of Kate, fine. Like
right.
let's leave the project of Kate aside, but what about, like as you said, like awakening. Okay, but again, that ends up being some kind of doing.
So
even undoing is a kind of doing. It's like everything my
yeah,
mind
so
turns everything into
well,
doing.
look at it this way. Kate is 100% psychologically conditioned. You know, who is Kate? Who told you you were Kate? Who told you anything you know? You know, where did you find that out? So we're going to have to start going backwards here, not somewhere forwards. So if you're trying to go forward, that's not where we're going. We need to start backing up.
Well, I think that's what the like getting down to those core beliefs was about. Because the original question that Angela asked me was like to ask myself, like, why can't I be settled? And that's sort of what we're talking about, right? Like, why do I feel like there's something to fix about myself and all that stuff? And so digging down into those beliefs.
There is nothing to fix. Nothing to fix. And that gets to where it's really hard to talk about. It's hard to explain. But there's no problem with Kate that's not in your mind. So when you back up and release that, it will, gosh, so hard to talk about. And one thing I can tell you is I found out that everything I believed was not right. Everything, all of it. So it's just stepping back and saying, what is real? My goodness, you know, what is not conditioned? Because it's shocking. I still haven't uncovered it all. I guess we never do, you know, uncover it all. But it's just shocking. And so it's not out there. It's going to be undoing all of the conditioning and looking at that. Where did this come from? Where did that come from? Well, what is thought? What is it all? And then just sitting with that. And with that meditation, I don't care if you call it meditation, inquiry, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't have to be a practice or anything. Just sit and question it. Just question it. And know that there's no Kate to fix. There's an undoing. It's all undoing and unraveling. And and there's nothing wrong with taking a break when you feel frustration. I know when I would feel frustrated and take a break, life gave me the next jolt. Time and time again, I would be like, oh, okay, I've got to follow this one now, you know. And we want to get in a hurry because we want it done fast. We want it done now. We want these answers now. That's what we're made of, and that doesn't happen that way.
Yeah, there's definitely impatience, for sure.
Impatience, yeah. I am the queen of impatience, and boy, did I get knocked down. Really nicely, real nicely on that one, you know. Because life will, just when you think, oh, I got it, I'm on top of it, I get it now, and then boom, another life shows you something else. And I'm not indicating it's not worth the journey. It's worth every bit of the journey, but it does require patience. I don't know if any of that helps or not.
I don't know if anything helps, honestly. That's where I'm at. Like, I never know. Like, I do, I'll inquire into things. I'll feel what's here, or like whatever. I'm consistent with doing something most of the time, but
so there's some
like I guess yeah, for sure, the frustration. Yeah, like it's like, okay, but now what? Like, what's happening? Like, I think I mentioned this in other questions too. It's just persistent. Like, doesn't feel like there's any shift happening. Doesn't feel like, I don't know, like whatever. I know that I definitely feel that things are different from a year ago, but I don't know.
Right. And frustration is hard. Frustration is very difficult to deal with. And so that's one of those things I would say that you have to surrender to and let go of is frustration. You have to let it go. And even when you're so frustrated this and I can't stand it, and are they really talking? Do they really know what the hell they're talking about? And what is this shit and all of it? Let it just burn up. You got to let it burn up, because that frustration and that I got to do it and I want to get there and all that is gonna. So that's when you can sit down and say, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to sit here and let this frustration burn up. Okay, burn up. Take it. I don't want it. None of it. I don't want the frustration. I don't want the impatience. And that may be what you have to do, is just sit with, what is this frustration? What is this impatience? Let it burn up.
That's beautiful, Pam. We're over here loving your answers.
Oh,
okay.
Thank you.
I have to go, everyone. I'm sorry, Labina. We can do you first next time, okay?
No problem.
Yeah, I have a hard limit at 2 p.m. here, so I have to roll. But thank you all so much. Thank you all for your wonderful questions. Thank you so much, Pam, for your time. Your directness was a blast to watch. I love your style, and it's just nice seeing your face as always. So
thank you, Angela. You too. Nice to meet you, Josh and Alma. Seen you a bazillion times. Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
all.
love you all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
See y'all.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.